Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. It's about to be
This is Daniel Smith from Jets Guru. Welcome to the show. All gas, no brakes. Let's go, Jets. Woo!
You're paralyzed.
What's going on, Jets Nation? CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here, and you are watching Jets Guru. Now, give it up for your host, Mr. Daniel Smith!
Number one, New York Jets. Fly your flags, people. Fly them. The New York Jets. They have done it, folks. They have done it. You see that grave to the right there? They have done it, folks. They have nearly buried themselves completely, and they have the chance to become the zombies of the NFL themselves tomorrow, Halloween night. The full embarrassment. Throw it online Thursday night. There's not even any Sunday 1 o'clock games. There's no Sunday 4 o'clock games. There's no Sunday 8 o'clock games. It's just the New York Jets for you. Halloween night. Sit down with your kids. Check that candy and watch the disaster on the TV. It has been awful to be a New York Jet fan. Thank you for YouTube tuning in. Thank you for everyone from Facebook tuning in. I can't stand watching this team anymore. And I can't stand being a Jet fan anymore. But I'm not a quitter. So I can't just quit on the Jets and be like those people that are like, oh, I got to take a break. No, it's full pain. I was born for this pain. Like Halloween night, I transform into a wolf, howling my tales of no playoffs. I can't stand it. 14 years, no playoffs. I was once a young man, ladies and gentlemen. I was once a young man, 27 years old, future ahead of me. I was growing, right? Moving past those younger 20-year adolescents. And all of a sudden, I wake up and I'm almost 40 years old, and I still haven't seen the Jets. How many Jet fans have passed away? I know you know a couple that were still waiting for the New York Jets to do something, even the incompetent at times. And for most of my watching time, New York Mets, they somehow find a way to make the playoffs and make a deep run and give fans just a little bit of hope. Where is my water? I just don't understand what is happening. My whole life, I waited for this type of offense. I waited for an Aaron Rodgers. I waited for Devontae Adams. I waited for a Garrett Wilson. I waited for a Breece Hall. I waited for a left tackle that was a Hall of Fame tackle. I waited for all this for years and years and years. And I mean, I like everybody. Everybody on the offensive roster I like. I like Conklin. I like Lazard in his role now. I like Mike Williams stashed away maybe for a trade, which I don't even understand why we haven't picked up the phone and contacted Tampa to see if we can get anything. And maybe they have, because I don't know. I'm not plugged in, right? But is anyone plugged in over there? Is anyone plugged in over there? Because for me personally, they're not. They're not plugged in at all. And Woody Johnson is not plugged in at all. And that is why I buried and put away my season tickets just this Tuesday. And I told them no more. I can't do this anymore. I said, I can't. Every Sunday, I will be watching the New York Jets, but I will not spend another 5-hour drive in traffic to get to a Jet game to watch them let me down. No, I need a break. I need a break. I got a lot going on in my life. I need a break. And the Jets are no relief. They're no vacation. They're no happiness. Do you know I could have won over $5,000 in bets? Every other team won, but the New York Jets. The New York Jets. It is just 6 straight losses. You have Aaron Rodgers. I just went over the whole thing. How is it? How? Okay, there is a stat out there, all right? And I know you guys have seen it on the pages, okay? Where there's been 749 teams that if they score 20 points, no turnovers, and there was one other stat, I forgot what is under 200 yards or something for the opposing team. I forgot what it was. That team won. And could you guess who the one team was out of the 750? It was the New York Jets. They are. They lost to a Denver Broncos team where the quarterback had 60 yards. Passing. And you're going to say, oh, well, Greg should have made the field goals. I don't care. First off, if you watch my show, you know I hate special teams in general. And Morstead has been the only one that's kind of softened my heart recently because I love watching Thomas Morstead punt the football because he's usually consistent every single time and he gives a lot of hang time so those gunners can go and try to get those guys. And the Jets don't get burnt too often. It happens to everyone, but they don't get burnt too often. He's a really good punter. But you could document this and go through the episodes. I can't stand field goal kickers. And it goes back to all the famous missed kicks that John Halls and all those guys. I just can't stand it. Doug O'Brien. I just can't stand any of them. Any of them. And so to have Aaron Rodgers, to have Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, the whole team that we just went through, okay, to have all that and still have to come down to the wire against a guy that has 60 yards passing, or you become some kind of meme now because you're one of 750 teams in the history and you're the only one that's lost. Rodgers plays good. The defense gives up something bad. The offense plays bad. The defense plays good. They run the ball, pass the ball. The defense gives up too many points in the wrong time. It's just Jekyll and Hyde. No one could ever get it together for a full, cohesive game. And everyone still goes back to, well, if they would have made the kicks, well, I'll tell you what. Good teams find a way to win. And you know what? I don't want to win like that. If Greg Zuerlein, if he would have made those kicks, man, we would have won. I don't want to win like that. I want to be the Lions. I want to come out here and beat people up. And you don't have to go out there and throw 5 touchdowns a game. You've got Breece Hall. You've got Braylon Allen. Where the hell is Isaiah Davis? You've got backs there. Be creative with them. And finally, they were creative, 4 or 5 games in, it seems? Or Todd Downing, once he came in, they looked a little bit more creative. The offense has opened up a little bit. They still can't run the ball consistently. it's mind-boggling. Because any year as a Jet fan, if you would have told me this roster and I knew who the players were, I would have signed up for it 100 out of 100. And the people that say that they didn't sign, that they wouldn't sign up for Rodgers and company is because what? Not because of the players. It's because it's the New York Jets. And that is why they said it wouldn't work. And that is why they said it was going to be a freak show, is because it's the New York Jets. And you have an owner. Even Bill Belichick came out earlier and just dropped so much shade on Woody Johnson. And people are like, well, who cares what Bill Belichick says? I hate him. And you know what? Well, hate is a strong word. I don't really know someone. But yeah, I dislike Bill Belichick, of course. He left the Jets high and dry, went to a division opponent, and created a dynasty. And we could have been a lot further ahead if we had him or just if he wasn't around in general. So I get it. And he's done nothing but trash the Jets, and I get it. But he's a rival to the Jets, and he has personal beef with Woody Johnson. And each time he lays out why he didn't want to be part of this Jets organization. And I think with Woody Johnson and what has happened, I still need water. I need it. Can you guys send me some water? That would be phenomenal right now. Put it out. 911 call. Jet Guru. He needs water. But anyway. That's what I do when I turn on the TV. As soon as I turn on the TV, go, like every time Rodgers drops back, like it's just like, is he going to throw a pick because someone's not going to be in the right spot? Is he going to get crushed because the left tackle can't handle anyone that's coming through? Or is he going to have another 3rd and 9 situation he's got to throw himself out of? I cannot blame the offense. What was I even talking about? This is how this team gets me. There's so many things running around in my brain that I got to talk about with this team that I just get completely off track. I don't know if Woody Johnson put something in my ear right now, but I'm not letting him go. All right, so I'm going right back to it. So back to the incompetency of the New York Jets. When Belichick said that, I think it resonated with Jet fans when you heard it because it's true. He's like, Woody makes all these decisions and he's not really considering how football really is. And that's really what he only had to say. That was wrapped up in a nutshell. Because what did we need as the New York Jets when you were watching them on TV and you said, hey, the Jets need to make a move going forward? What should they do, right? To me, Mike Williams was ascending. He had one bad game or 2 bad plays, but he also made 2 or 3 really good catches kind of just off the bench, cold. And I thought he did a good job, and I thought the Jets didn't feature him enough. Like, just throw him the ball more. That's all. Like, put it up in the air, right? Like, throw the ball up in the air. That's like what Mike Williams does. And if you got a player and you're not using him how he's supposed to be used, and you're barely using him, and you're like, oh, well, you're working him back. Well, dude, you're losing games. Working him back what? Bring him back now. He said he's ready, right? Bring him back. Okay? So we don't use him. So you have Alan Lazard running routes that he really shouldn't be running. He really shouldn't be the main feature, even though he's had a bounce-back season, even though he has been clutch at times, even though he's had the drops, but that's a whole Jet team thing, leads the league in drops. He has had a bounce back year, but he shouldn't be running certain routes and he shouldn't be out there as the main feature. It slows the whole offense down waiting for Lazard to run his routes. And therefore you can only run certain routes with Lazard considering how the offensive line is playing. So, and you see how Aaron Rodgers is getting rid of the ball, right? How quickly he has to get rid of the ball. Now, I know that he typically does that, but it's different. This is different. It's more of like I get rid of it because I don't want to get rid of it because he doesn't look in sync. And when he does, the receivers don't. And it's just been an entire mess. In reality, when you're watching this team, the New York Jets couldn't stop the run consistently. The one thing that the Jets did this whole time in their 6 losses, and even in their wins, if I have to go back, I bet you, they couldn't stop the run. And I remember saying it like 3-4 weeks in. I'm like, they're going to have to stop the run. Like, this isn't going to work. Like, you can't keep putting your defense. I need water. Ah. You can't keep putting your defense in a situation, right, where 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, you're leaving your defense out there. You don't have your offense out there enough. You're not flipping the field for your offense where you're pinning the defense down and getting your offense the ball around, the 40 to work with. You're always starting from your 20. These are the type of things that, as a fan, you start to go, this is going to hurt us in November and December. And you're thinking because we're going to be good. And they just never did. So for me, for Woody has to go out there and get a big body. That is the move that should have been made. He should have went out and he should have got a big body defensive tackle or a lineman to eat up space for Quinnen Williams. Now, people are going to say, well, how many good guys are out there at this point in the season? Yes, I get you, but you do have some assets that you could play with. And if this is ultimately the most important season, not only for you as a GM, you as an owner, you as a coach, wouldn't you say, hey, let's hold back a second, okay? Let's hold back before we start moving coaches and firing coaches. Let's go out. Let's go get a big body to stop this run. And let's see if this defense can limit the points by a couple, because now we're not getting gashed with the run and ultimately giving our offense maybe 2-3 more times another cracks at it. And maybe instead of trying to go down, because we lost 4 games by a total of 14 points. Maybe you don't have to play in those types of games. Maybe you win 2 of those games. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where the Jets made a panic move. And to me, it wasn't a Joe Douglas move because Joe doesn't move like that. Or he hasn't moved like that. So this was an owner move. And that's why Belichick said that, because he knows, dude, you need a defensive tackle. You need an interior lineman that can come in and stop the run. You don't need another receiver. Is Devontae Adams wanted? Sure. But how much is he really paid dividends when your team has to constantly score because you can't stop the other team's run game and they're in position to kick field goals and score touchdowns? So now you're expecting to put all that load on Aaron Rodgers with an offensive line and a left tackle that's not playing up to its capabilities. They already scored over 20 points. I thought the Jets were one of the best defenses in the league. Oh, I forgot. You let all those names go. Now you want to negotiate with Reddick? Now is not the time. He should have been traded, and Williams should have been packaged for an interior lineman of some sort. You telling me you couldn't have gotten any interior lineman of some sort? Some guy stash away just a big body? Did they contact anybody who was on the Jets last year that's currently not playing? Like, hey, anybody? But no, they did not do that. And that was their biggest fall, in my opinion, because you still go out there today and what do you see? Extended drives with quarterbacks running the football, extended drives running the football with, undrafted free agents and backups. It's embarrassing. This isn't the same Jets defense. And guess what? I will give the Jets defense credit in the secondary because they've been banged up pretty bad. And those backups have been holding their own for the most part. If the Jets defensive line could stop the run, it would pay dividends for their secondary. And it wouldn't put them in these situations. And you wouldn't have to have Sauce come up and tackle so much because teams wouldn't be running the ball down your throat every time because they'll be in 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 situations. This is football. Everyone knows this. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not like Bart Scott and calling out actual terminology in the calls and in the playbook. I'm not doing all that. We're talking football. It's not rocket science. We know how the pieces connect. Can't they see it? Dude, you can't stop the run. It's just insanity. And they just kept doubling down. So now you fire your head coach instead of firing the guy that you should have fired, which was your offensive coordinator. And you can't fire him because you did everything in your power to get Rodgers here when you know Joe Douglas and Saleh probably on board, right? But probably the owner a lot more. And so now there's no backup to your plan. So you just keep going forward with it. You just keep moving forward and forward and forward. So now you fire your head coach. Instead of firing the offensive coordinator and letting Downing be just the offensive coordinator from that standpoint, and then that way Ulbrich can run the defense and the defense only, and then Saleh would be there to help out with the defense if needed, and that would still be better than what Hackett was. And now what you've done is you thinned out your defensive mind and play calling. So now the person who created and orchestrated your defense, and you could say whatever you want about Robert Saleh not being a head coach, much like you've done about Rex Ryan, but defense is something that they do understand, and their schemes will always work. And Saleh's defensive schemes and his rotating 9 defensive line will work. Okay. And so for me, you took that guy's head and you threw it out the building. And now you've got the understudy who now has to be the head coach for the first time in his career. And now it's spread out. And now another guy has to step. And you don't think there was going to be any changeover, especially with the injuries to the secondary, that this defense was still going to come out and be a top 10 defense? That's insanity. It's insanity for us to think it. But we bought the magic and we kept saying they're going to turn it around. They're going to turn it around. They're going to turn it around. But we can't say it anymore. And it has to stop. And they still want to upcharge on season tickets. And we're an embarrassment. You're talking about an East Coast, New York franchise that hasn't been to the playoffs in 14 years. And I'm here to say it right now. If we do what I know we're going to do, then we're talking about potentially 16, 17 years, no playoffs, guys. We're potentially saying that this gentleman right here, this one right here, me, that I went from 27 years old to potentially 45 years old before I saw the Jets make the playoffs. That is what we're looking at if they blow this thing up. I almost don't want them to blow up because it's just so unimaginable what the amount of waiting that might have to occur after we've just been waiting. It's like Moses going 40 years through the desert to see the promised land and then being like, oh, no, you got to go another 40 years. And then you get there and then it's like, no, you still can't see it. It's like, no, come on, man.
Water, help me. I need water.
Please. Hello Kitty glass too. Shout out to Hello Kitty. Kid life, right? So it just boggles my mind when I sit here and think at the possibilities, because what established head coach is going to come to the New York Jets and risk their reputation? Do you think everyone's like, I don't even want a defensive head coach. I want an offensive head. Who are you to dictate what the Jets need? Me, you, no one. The Jets suck. And all the different opinions that we've all had have all been wrong. Every single one of us, because this team does things that doesn't even make sense. The GM was actually making good moves for the most part, but the players never work until they leave the Jets. Then they work. It's just like, it literally feels like a curse and in a continuing curse. So do you think Vrabel is going to come here? No, I would love to take Vrabel. People are like, I want an offensive head coach. I'm like, I want a good head coach. At this point, I want a good head coach. I don't care who it is. Please take me back to the playoffs so I even know what that looks like, so you could build the following year. Like, hey, we did a good job. We'll come back, fill in the holes. We just got to the playoffs. Yeah, man. Division round, feeling good. Can't wait. Maybe AFC Championship game next year. Something. Like, we're not getting to the playoffs. We're getting like a little bit close in November and December sometimes. And then we fall apart and go on 7-game losing streaks and whatnot. Like, even when people are rooting for us to win, Even when we're the betting favorites for once in a lifetime, we still can't do it. 7-point favorites for the Patriots game. That is basically, when you're a 7-point favorite, that is basically saying like your team sucks and the other team is going to beat you pretty good. And the Jets lost that game. It is just like, and Lucky Rodgers hit the over on the 2 touchdowns. So whoever had that worked out for them. Pretty nice. And it was early, so the stress was out the way for that. But anything else was just a joke, and they've been a joke, a betting joke. And guess who the real joke is? Me? I'm the real joke because I'm actually going to bet on them again in the Texans game for the Jets to win. And I do think Garrett Wilson is going to have over 60 and a half yards receiving. And I do think that Rodgers is going to have over 1.5 touchdowns. And I do think Breece Hall is going to have over 20 yards rushing. Braylon Allen's going to have over 20 yards rushing if that is what you have in your betting. And I do think the Jets are going to win this game by 3 or more. People say how they're 6-2. I just don't know. I just think they're going to win this game because my mind just, I'm looking at the offensive roster and I'm just like, they're going to score points at some point, right? Like, they're not going to go 7 straight losses, are they? Like, really? Like, at home, Diggs is hurt. Tank Dell is the best receiver you have to go after. Like, Joe Mixon, though. Oh, Joe Mixon. This could be another 120, 140-yard performance. Who is kicking field goals for the New York Jets? We might need it. Oh, boy. Well, I might have to change my prediction now after rethinking that. Heck no, we're going Jets are going to win this. Of course we are. I'm going Jets all the way because I'm crazy, man. And it's Halloween. And it's a time to dress up. And you know what? I'm going to dress up like a winner tomorrow, man. I am. And I'm going to wear my jersey. And I'm going to say that the Jets they're a playoff team. And I am going, and when people say, well, what's your costume, Dan? You're a Jet fan? And I'm going to say, no, I'm a Jet fan. I'm a playoff Jet. The Jets are going to the playoffs this year, and they're going to win this game against the Texans. And it's Halloween, and we're playing dress up. And for one day, and one day only, I am going to feel like a playoff fan, like a fan watching a playoff team. And the Jets are going to come out against the Texans, and they're going to sling the ball around, and Rodgers is going to get abused, and Breece Hall is going to run for at least 50 yards, and Braylon Allen's going to run for at least 20, and Garrett Wilson's going to have more than 60. Devontae Adams is going to have more than 55 yards, okay? Tyler Conklin is going to get a touchdown, all right? And the Jets are going to win. Do your students make fun of you? You're skier? Of course they do. Not only do my students make fun of me, but I go to Syracuse University, and they make fun of me too. So everybody, ha, 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 ha. That's what told me. The Jet fan. I had a girl in my class, right? When someone's like, oh, well, I really don't even watch football. I'm like, well, good, because, I'm a Jet fan. And somebody in my class this girl went, you're a Jet fan? Why? But she was like, the way she said it was like, she was just so surprised. And I said, it wasn't my choice. I was born this way. Do you think anyone would volunteer for this? We are the Cleveland Browns. And if anyone knows what I'm talking about, who's over the age of 30, 35 years old, they know. The Cleveland Browns, when I was a kid, we were bad. We were really bad when I was a kid. But the Browns, right, they were right there too, man. And then the Lions were there. Even when they got Barry Sanders, they didn't really do too much with them. But it was like, and I felt like the Jets every few years made the playoffs, right? It's like they made the playoffs. They got a new coach. They made the playoffs and a new coach. The playoffs, new coach, the playoffs, new coach. And so it's like, hey, we got a shot here. And then all of a sudden, after Rex Ryan, it has just been an absolute disaster. And everybody I don't want Rex Ryan. Play the clip. Play the clip, JR.
He would change things with this team. If you got that call, would you answer it? Would you consider being the head coach of this team?
Oh, I'd do it in a second. I'd do it in a second because I am a New York Jet, and I absolutely would. But I'm not here to politic or look. And it seems like it because I tell the damn truth, and I speak as a fan of this football team and in this community. Like that's why it makes sense. So yeah, we'll see. I hope I get an opportunity to interview for it.
I absolutely love that clip. And whether you want Rex Ryan to be your head coach or not, I like the fact, and the clip is courtesy of Rothenberg and DiPietro on ESPN. He wasn't politicking. And the one thing I like about Ryan is that he gives you straight up answers. He's not politicking. He comes on that segment after every football Sunday. So every Monday or Tuesday, he comes on that show and they talk NFL football. So it's not like he was on that show just to be like, hey, I'm the best guy for the New York Jets coach. I think I've seen a maturity from Rex Ryan since he's left coaching and been on the broadcast booth. And I don't think that he would still play it the same way that he used to. And I think it's unfair for Jet fans to paint Rex Ryan as that, as if coaches can't grow or coaches can't learn things being away from the game. I don't think he's that much of a knucklehead where it would just be ground and pound the whole time, and he wouldn't try to bring in an offensive coordinator that works well to complement his defense. Should he get that opportunity? I mean, I don't know. Like, everyone's going to say, well, he did this in the past, he did that in the past, and they never speak about any of the good. And when you really think about it, it's kind of annoying, right? Because to just knock the man for his faults on the way out the door, as if every other coach that came through the doors didn't have their faults, but at least he put together teams that fought and they got to the playoffs, and it seems like they had an identity for the time that he was there. And he wasn't always done solid either. What they brought in that GM, I hate his name, I've etched it out of my mind most of the time, and from the Jaguars, I keep forgetting his name. And he basically left Rex Ryan with a dead roster. Like, that's not fair to a guy that brought you to your only success since Bill Parcells in a 1998, 97, 98, or was it 98, 99 AFC championship game. I mean, come on, man. Like, it's just like, even the people that you have that come in the door, you don't send them out the right way. And he always claims the New York Jets. What other coach is claiming your franchise and wants to be part of your organization because of his family ties and because of the fact that he coached there in the past? Nobody. As soon as somebody from the New York Jets leaves, they either talk trash, they have something to say, or they just don't say anything at all about their time here. And it's just like, and for me, I just think it's so unfair the way fans paint him. And it's like, dude, we haven't had, you take Rex Ryan and his time with the New York Jets out of this organization, and Idzik, that's right. And then you don't have any success. Like, you're gosh awful, bro. I mean, if you take him out of that time. And you know what? I love listening to people like Bart Scott, right? Because these are players. And when you listen to players that played with Rex Ryan, they always had complimentary things to say about the guy, his leadership, and how they treated them and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that also I love to hear. And it's not just they just let him do whatever they want. Like, Bart talks about how tough that defense was and the mentality and what he expected out of them too. And I think the Jets could use a little toughness up front, don't you think? Because they're getting gut punched up the middle. So I'm not saying that Rex Ryan should be our head coach, but what I am saying is I don't think anyone really has the right to dog him the way that they've been dogging him, considering he's been the only Jets coach that's had success in a long period of time. And it hasn't even been that many. So it's been him and Bill Parcells and a couple other head coaches that had some flare-ups. But I think Rex Ryan really, like, when you look back at the times, you look back to the Rex Ryan times because that was the team besides that Jets-Broncos game with Parcells where we were that close, 10-0 before halftime. Just so annoying. But besides that team, Vinny and the Jets, I think, the Rex Ryan Jets had a really good shot at winning a chip there. And if they had just if they just had an extra couple of minutes in that Pittsburgh game, I think the Jets would have, they owned that second half. I think they would have had a shot there. They didn't, right? So I don't know. What did the Jets do? They're going to do the only thing that they're going to be able to do. They're going to hire a first-time offensive head coach, and they're going to hire a first-time GM, and it's going to be, if it works at all, a 3 to 5 year process. And you know what's so scary about these processes too? It's not like they even hang with these guys for that long, because I'm not even really telling you the truth. Look at what the Colts have done to Anthony Richardson. First off, he shouldn't have been drafted that high. Second off, he only had one season of college under his belt. He needed to sit on the bench behind Flacco for about a year or two. They rush him out there. He already has bad mechanics. He has a strong arm. He has great athleticism, and he was not coached properly, and they didn't use him how he was supposed to. You've got Bryce Young, and 2 years in, he's already being benched. Like, the way that they're doing quarterbacks now, it's just, hey, if you don't have success right away, we're just ready to move on to the next person. So maybe it's not such a bad thing. Maybe it won't be a 3 to 5 year process if we get a quarterback and he's not that good. Or you have a quarterback that you draft high, and then he kind of meddles around like Daniel Jones, where he has a little bit of a good season, and then he gets hurt, so then you're not sure. Then he comes back, he gets hurt, then you're not sure. Then he has a good season. Then he comes back, he has a bad season, but then he gets hurt. So you're like, oh, we give him one more year because it was just a bad season. Then he comes back, he doesn't play that well, then he gets hurt. Then you're like, oh, yeah, but then like we got to pay him anyways. And then like, what are we really going to do here? Rather get neighbors and kind of see what we could do. And then still that doesn't work. And then you wind up like middling around for like 5-6 years with a quarterback. And Danny now is 45 years old before he sees the playoffs. And many of our cherished and beautiful Jet fans pass away, and they never get to see him. And we've become the Chicago Cubs of the NFL. And that is ultimately what we're looking at here. Some people have said to me, maybe the Jets should pump the brakes and try this again one more season. How do the fans feel about that? Do you want the blow up knowing that it's going to be a first-time head coach, first-time GM again, whole new staff? Are you willing to go through yet another complete rebuild with no carryover? Because I'll say this, there could still be value here. We still have a full season to play, and I want to see how it unfolds and what happens. I don't envision any head coach coming here with any type of name if Aaron Rodgers is still here. So then if Rodgers, let's say, was to stay, I think what you would see, unless the Jets completely blow up, which means continuing on, like we're talking about 2-10, that sort of thing. Is there an update? Is something coming in? Let me know. Nothing cool? Did they just hire Rex Ryan? No? Okay.
Yeah, it's just our draft position that we're looking forward to this year again.
Yeah, number 3. And so, again, we've got 2 quarterbacks to choose from as well for the New York Jets. And you've got Shedeur Sanders and you have Cam Ward. Again, I'm not opposed to having a young quarterback and dreaming that you have potentially the next Jaden Daniels and all that kind of noise. But it's just, as a Jet fan, do you really believe that they're going to draft the right guy? And you know what is going to happen, guys. You know this 100% what is going to happen with the New York Jets. They're going to go on a run. You already know it. If there is a quarterback to be had that is going to be a sure good player, and now I know people are like, well, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been what he was supposed to be, and he hasn't, but he's been good, and he's been better than what we've seen in a long time, and I would still rather have Trevor Lawrence than Zach Wilson at the time, and still now. And honestly, I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence right now, honestly, in general, knowing that he's going to be around for a couple more years. At this point, the way I see how the season is. You know the Jets are going to go on a run, though. They're not going to continue losing like this. I think they are going to figure out a formula that's going to work for them. And when you look at the New York Jets schedule coming up, Arizona is no longer a gimme. I think Indianapolis is a very winnable game. I think we are going to win against Houston. So that we're going to have 3 wins there. We'll be 3-6. I do think that coming off that Houston game, we will beat Arizona and we will be 4-6. And I think we will beat Indianapolis and we will be 5-6. And this is where the false belief is going to happen for the Jets at this point in time. When they get to 5-6, this is when we're going to start getting excited. And we're going to start being like, all right, I think they've got it now. They figured it out. They got a little bit of a roll going, 3-game winning streak. You had a big losing streak. You got a winning streak coming. Maybe you kind of meet in the middle. You're not what you thought you're going to be, but you're not as bad as you've been. And you start closing out some games, right? Devontae starts paying some dividends, okay? And then the ball drops yet again. They play Seattle. It's going to be at home. The Jets are going to think, and all us fans, that we're going to get to 500. The Jets are going to somehow lose that game, then go to Miami. 2 is going to be warmed up. We're going to lose that game, and then it's over from there. Then you got to go to Jacksonville, and then you look at the schedule, you go, man, and if we would have just beat Denver, and if we would have just made those kicks against New England, and if we would have just, then look at this schedule, because of course, seriously, look at this schedule. If the Jets just half showed up the first half of the season and we're a 500 ball club, you're talking about playing really an easy schedule. You're talking about Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Los Angeles, Buffalo, Miami. That's not hard. You had an excellent opportunity to come out of the first half 500, and you dropped the ball. You only had to play 500 football, and you go into one of the top 3 easiest schedules in the NFL, and they still play like this. It is infuriating. Oh, it drives me insane. Because it seems like every other team in this position, that if they had these players, if they were put in these situations, they would seize them. The AFC is not even that tough, and they can't win. The AFC is not even tough, and they cannot win. It is insane what we could have done if we would have showed up what we looked like on paper. Just a little bit. Look at what I'm talking about here. The Los Angeles Chargers in the 7th spot. They're 4-3. The separation between the Tennessee Titans, who are 1-6, and the Chargers, who are 4-3, is literally 3 games. If the Jets would have just been a decent team, look at this. Miami Dolphins 2-5, Browns 2-6, Raiders 2-6, Jaguars 2-6, Patriots 2-6, Colts 4-4. If you just showed up halfway, you would have been in prime position to put yourself probably in the 5th and 6th spot where the Broncos and the Ravens are, around 5-3. And you know that the Steelers and the Ravens and the Broncos, they're all going to beat up on each other. It's just like Pittsburgh. If you would have beat Pittsburgh, off the bench, Russell Wilson beats you. Like, this is the type of stuff where you're just like, this don't even make sense, man. Like, the NFL cannot be fake or scripted, because if you're writing this script, I don't know what you're doing, because it just, you're doing things that don't even make sense to the human eyes anymore. And so it's very, very frustrating to be a New York Jet fan. But all in all, we're doing all right, right? We're breathing, we're living somewhat. And maybe, just maybe, we could be winners too tomorrow. So I have the Jets ultimately winning tomorrow 20-17. A hard-fought game. And the kicker wins the game because why not? Why not, right? The kicker's been costing us games. Maybe he wins this one for us. I don't even know what to tell you anymore. You can't analyze this team. They don't make any sense. They're doing things you've never seen with a roster that everyone's like, they should be doing this. And it just doesn't make much sense. And then the owner does things that don't make sense. And offensive coordinator doesn't do things that make sense. And they don't fire the right people at the right times. And it's all crazy. So thank you, JR. Thank you, everyone. YouTube, I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone on Facebook. Keep reading the articles. Keep sharing. I'll see you Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, like everyone else. Watching the Jets. Come on there on our game thread. We'll be talking about it. We could talk about the Jets winning the football game because I am going to dress up tomorrow as a winning Jet fan, and it's going to come true because the guru said so. Peace.
Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets Content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets Content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets Content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets Content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru, Jets Content with Daniel Smith every Wednesday night as usual. Welcome to Jets Guru,